Alright, so today we're going to be covering Iayze. If you don't know who Iayze is, he's an artist who's been blowing up on SoundCloud and TikTok, which honestly all artists have been blowing up there recently. Iayze has two popular sounds, which means this is going to be my first ever two-parter. So this video is going to be part 1. Part 2 is going to be dropping 24 hours from now. So for video 1, we're going to be making more of his traditional sound, which is going to be a very ambient, dark, melodic beat with very simple drums. So part 2, we're covering the more trendy sound, which you guys probably know as the goofy ass beat or whatever. You guys get it. So let's just get into this first beat. So for this beat, I wanted to do something a little slower, so I got the tempo set to 134, but to be honest, I think you could do anything in the range of 130 to 150. For these ambient beats, I want to use a pad sound, so I opened up Expand because I think that's the best plugin for pads, and I just got the very first sound under soft pads. The key to this is it's a very ambient beat, so there's not going to be a lot of melody. The chords are going to carry. There's going to be a lot of different layers with the chords. So I'm going to go right here to View, and then I'm going to go to Scale Highlighting, and I'm going to select Minor Natural because for these dark ambient beats, you really want to use a minor scale, and then I'm just going to go D. But you can use whatever scale you like. So I'm just going to start at my root note and build a chord by skipping every other note in the scale, which is the easiest way to build a chord. Obviously, right now I just made a D minor chord. Now what I'm going to do is duplicate it and go up 5 semitones by pressing Shift up 5 times. And I actually want to swap these, so I'm going to press Alt-Y and then flip horizontally. And Control down to go down 1 octave. Now you may notice that looks way different than the chord progression I just made, so I'm going to step back for a second and show you what I did. Right here, first off, I'm going to bring it back to what it originally was and build it again. What I want to do to make it sound dark is take use of the half steps. Half steps are the notes in a scale that are right next to each other, so A and A sharp are 1 note apart, but for example, G and A are not a note apart. That's not a half step. The other half step in the scale is F and E, which I'll get into after. First, I just move this down 1/2. I kept this the same, but on the second half, I just added an extra E, which is again using the half steps. Again, these beats are big, atmospheric, and ambient, so I moved all these middle ones and pressed Control up to move them up an octave to give it more of a dynamic range. Now, last thing to give it more of a dynamic range is copy all the bottom notes, press Control, Paste, and then Control down to bring it down 1 octave. So it's really taking use of the half steps and trying to come up with something dark. I know it sounds vague, but the best way I did it was just by practicing. Practice makes perfect. So once you got that, you're like halfway done with the melody. So I picked out another sound in Expand under Bright Pads, and now I'm going to be laying down the same exact chord progression, but I'm going to add a gate to it. So to this, I added an EQ, just cutting out some of the low end, stereo shaper to make it sound wider, and now for the gate. I'm going to open up gross beat and go to half beat gate. Now we layer that with the first chords. Now I picked out this bass in Expand. A lot of Expand here, but that's just one of my go-to plugins. So I copy and pasted just these bottom notes, and I'm going to create a simple bass line. To the bass, I'm going to add a low cut. This is because when the 808s are playing, I don't want the low end in this because if 2 low ends are playing, there's a lot of clashing and it just makes the bass sound muddy. And that's the last thing you want in a mix because what people are really looking for is that really prominent bass and you want it to sound clean and clear. So you still get like the sound of the sub bass, but you get the feel of the 808s. And you'll see that once I add the 808s. Now in Expand again, I'm sorry for not using any other plugins. I use this pad layer, which sounds like this. And I'm just going to lay down one note. We're going to lay down a high D. This is just so there's something in the higher octave. And we're just going to lay down one note. It's just something really to put in the background. Now I'm just going to add this simple sound from X-Band as just a little counter melody, just so there's a little something. But you don't really have to add this. You could be done there. Again, taking use of the half steps right here and right here. These are half steps. This just happens to be boosted up an octave. So the drums, we're just going to keep it really simple. For the claps, I like to EQ a little bit of the high end out. And layer a snare with that. For the snare, I'm going to add a couple extra hits. Nothing too specific, just whatever I feel sounds right. For the hats, I'm going to right click, fill each 2 steps, but I'm going to change some stuff. I'm going to take some notes out, add some, but not do anything too crazy. Just keep it simple for this. This open hat's just going to be at the beginning, but I'm not going to loop this. And this open hat's just going to be right before every other clap. For the 808s, you could either use a very hard-hitting 808 or something softer like the Meds 808. I would stay away from using kicks, so if you do want to use something that has punch, use a hard-hitting 808. Otherwise, you're going to have to suffer with no kick. But for this beat, I didn't really want a big punch, so I just went with this. An overview of mixing, I already went over the melodies. It's just simple EQs, the gate on the second melody with the stereo shaper. Some of these sounds don't have anything. The pluck has reverb, but most of these drums have nothing. The 808, you just turn it up, make sure it hits loud. Clap, like I said, took out the low end. Snare is just in the mix, took out the high end. Hats, just tuck them in the background. Maybe add reverb if you want. Same with open hats and all the other perks. There's not really any mixing. It's just leveling. So I want to go over arranging now. Once you have your completed pattern, you could right click right here and press split by channel. That's how I get all the different sounds in their own things. What I did here was I just kept it short, minute 53. A lot of his beats are short, so I went 8-bar intro, 16-bar hook, 16-bar verse, 16-bar hook, 8-bar outro. Doesn't get more simple than that. And it's pretty repetitive throughout, so there's nothing I could really say besides just, for the verse, I took out that gated pad, so it sounds a little bit less full. So that is going to be the end of the video. If you guys did enjoy this, be sure to leave a like on it. Let me know what artists you want to see me do next, and part 2 dropping in 24 hours. Thanks for watching.